We got several different stories from several different media outlets, guys. It's time for another episode of the World's Newsround. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with another episode of the World's Newsround, where I look at various news stories from outside of the United Kingdom. And we start with the Associated Press here with the headline that reactions as Vladimir Putin secures a fifth term as Russian president after a tightly controlled vote. Yes, it was a resounding victory for the Russian president. Vladimir Putin secured a fifth term as president. Not really a surprise, really, to be fair, guys. We were expecting this. It was a sham election, to say the least. We knew that it wasn't going to be a fair one in any way, shape, or form. And if you didn't see it on Sunday night, guys, I don't know how many of you are familiar or who watched All Shorts' live stream, but he showed a clip online of Russian soldiers checking people as they were in the ballot box, actually marking them, making sure that they're putting it in the right ballot as well. And I'm just like, yeah, that's definitely democracy at its work as well. Yeah, it was people voted Putin because they had to. Anyone who didn't would be So this really doesn't surprise us, but let's read a bit more into it, you guys. So Vladimir Putin secured an unprecedented fifth term as president of Russia on Monday, as the election commission announced the results of a vote in which he faced no serious challenges, and which happened amid the strictest crackdown of opposition and free speech since the Soviet times. Putin claimed his overwhelming margin was proof that Russians had placed their trust and hopes in him, while politicians across Europe rejected the vote as a sham and condemned Russia's effort to stage elections in occupied parts of Ukraine that it claims as its own territory. Yeah, Ukrainians in occupied Russia in Ukraine, they were forced to vote as well. They had to vote. If they didn't vote, they would as well. So they had to cast their votes as well, as much as they didn't want to. Here's what Putin, European others are saying. Of course, we have a lot of tasks, but I want to make it clear to everyone, when we were consolidated, no one ever managed to frighten us, to suppress our will and our self-conscious. They have failed in the past and they will fail in the future. Vladimir Putin, president of Russia. That's what he said. It certainly was an undemocratic process. And I think it's safe to say that there certainly won't be congratulatory calls coming from the United States of America. State Department Deputy Spokesperson Vinny Patel. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, why would anyone congratulate you on a sham election? And it was a sham one. The elections took place in an ever-shrinking political space, which has resulted in an alarming increase of violations and civil and political rights. Many procured many candidates from running, including all those that opposed Russia's illegal war of aggression. A statement from the European Union. Yeah, there was one candidate who I've covered, if it was not here on Rumble, where basically he is quite very well liked and very well liked within the Kremlin, but he's just against the war. And because he was against the war, they made sure that he couldn't run in this presidency in any way, shape, or form. There is no legitimacy into the intimidation of elections, Vladimir Zelensky, president of Ukraine, said in a nightly radio address on Sunday. The results are, of course, stunning. It's a serious signal to the rest, which has sought to destabilize the domestic situation in Russia. President Alexander Lukashenko of Belarus during a meeting with officials after congratulating Putin in a call. Yeah, because if he didn't, something might happen to him, if he didn't congratulate Vladimir Putin. He is a puppy dog, to him. We can consider this so-called election in Russia last weekend to be neither free nor fair. Russia, as the chancellor has already said, is now a dictatorship and is ruled by Vladimir Putin in an authoritarian manner. Christian Hoffman, spokeswoman for German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Russia's organisation of elections in occupied parts of Georgia and Ukraine is completely illegal, and Russia's presidential election was clearly neither free nor fair. NATO's General Secretary Jens Stoltenberg, while visiting Tutsby, Georgia on Monday. David Cameron has said that these Russian elections starkly underline the depths of repression under President Putin's regime, which seek to silence any oppression to his illegal war. Putin removes his political opponents, controls the media, and then controls himself. then crowns himself the winner. This is not democracy. Searches at the entrance into polling stations to attempting to check ballots before voters put them into the ballot box. Detentions of voters who came to vote none. There is now a report at one polling station in Moscow. Police have demanded that the chairman of the Commission of Poll Workers open a ballot box and give them a ballot with something written on it. It's the first time in my life that I've seen such absurdity. Stanislav Okovich, the co-chair of Gula's independent election watchdog, said on Telegram. I'm glad that people outside the confines of the political prison that is called Russia are currently able to express their opinions. For example, Russians that voted in Lithuania, just 3% of those who came to the Russian embassy in Vilnius voted for Vladimir Putin. Others decided to either spoil their ballots or to vote for any other candidate that was on the ballot. Gibrius Liskun, the Lithuanian foreign minister. The election in Russia was an election without a choice, holding so-called elections in parts of Ukraine, parts of Moldova and parts of Georgia is contrary to international law, and therefore all the more remarkable how many Russians made it clear this weekend that they do not see eye to eye with the Russian president, that you go to a polling station even if you're accompanied by soldiers. That fills me with the utmost respect, the German foreign minister. And he took up, yeah, they're, by literally soldiers right there, making sure. Are you casting your vote in the right box? Are you putting it in the right box? It's like they literally have a gun to your head, the people there. They literally have a gun to their head. The result is not surprising in any way, shape or form. I don't think anyone here is surprised by the outcome of this. And really, it's what we expected, guys. It's a real shame that the people of Russia can't really choose. Can't control their own future as of right now, but I do hope that at some point in the future they will be able to have that decision made for them again at some point. It's just a case of matter when, not if, and I do believe it will happen again. They will have their say again. It's a matter of time, guys, and hopefully it won't be too long. Hopefully there won't be an accident taking place for a certain Russian president. Hopefully, anyway. Maybe we'll see, but that's really. I don't think there's any more to add on the Russian election, if I'm honest, guys, because it's not a free and fair election. That's the thing. And yes, we know Russia is not a democratic nation. We know that. We know, but the people should have a right to be able to freely be able to cast their vote. Just going to put that out there. So the next article, just before I go in, just to make it clear, guys, the time of this recording is at the 19th of March at around 7:30 a.m. Just for reference, anybody asking why I haven't covered a certain other story or whatnot, just put a reference in there. So the next one we got is from Al Jazeera here, with the headline of "He's lost my vote. Many Irish Americans turned against Biden over the Gaza war. A series of protests on St. Patrick's Day points to the threats that Biden faced from a loss of key votes in swing states." So, for those who don't know, happy St. Patrick's Day, those who celebrate it on last Sunday. I hope you all had a great St. Patrick's Day for those who did. I don't celebrate it in general, but obviously I am part Irish, so I should celebrate a bit more maybe. But I have been down to a few things, but moving away from St. Patrick's Day, guys, many Americans are turning against Biden over the Gaza war, and this does not surprise me. People are people don't want to vote for Trump, but at the same time, people need to make it clear that what's happening in Gaza, they know that the president and the Biden administration can actually do something to subdue the amount of loss of life that's taking place down there, apply pressure unlike any other nation when it comes to unlike to Netanyahu and the Israeli authorities. They know the Biden administration has the power to do that. They know that they supply the weapons, they supply a lot of support. And Biden is just not doing enough. That's the absolute reality. The reality is that President Joe Biden is just not doing enough on it. Now, obviously, do I think Trump would actually do a better job? No, I actually think what he would say is just get on with it, kill them all and get on with it. That's what I think Trump would want. He doesn't give a damn about Palestinian people in any way, shape or form. I just think he's just looking at this as an opportunity. He would just see it as an opportunity to say, look, I helped deal with the situation much faster than Joe Biden ever did. I think that's how I kind of see it anyway. But understandably, people are frustrated. as we are here in the UK and other places around the world, about what's happening in Gaza. More than 32,000 losses of life there. So many millions of people suffering from famine and malnutrition, and aid is suffering. Aid's not getting into the country at the time of this recording still. And Netanyahu claiming that we're getting stuff in. Well, we're going to read into another story about that shortly, guys. But we'll focus on this one, is focusing on more the criticism that Americans have on Biden over the situation there. So, on one evening in 2004, when John Francis Mulligan, a US-born Irish citizen, was in the West Bank, a stranger asked him to walk her to a funeral. It was after curfew in Nablus and Palestinians weren't allowed out on the streets. A young man had been killed earlier that day, and because of religious beliefs, his family needed to bury him within 24 hours. Mulligan recalls, but if they went outside, the Israeli armed forces would open fire on them for violating curfew. A dead man's mother asked Mulligan, "Can you march with us? Can you..." Excuse me, my apologies. Let me start that again. Dead man's mother asked Mulligan, "Can you march with us? Can you stand in front with our family? Because they're not going to shoot you. You're white. I just need someone literally to stand with me." In this moment, the struggle to bury the dead in peace hit home for Mulligan, 54, who went to a primary school in Northern Ireland during the Troubles in the late 1970s. It felt to me very much like going into political funerals in the north of Ireland, where helicopters would be overhead. In that case, it was the British Army, and here it was the Israeli Army, he said. It was really resonance. Mulligan points to the parallels that is part of the reason that he is rallying with other Irish Americans in the US to support Gaza. The leaders from the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland are meeting Biden this weekend. The First Minister Michelle O'Neill met Biden last Friday, telling him the world watches on in horror at the genocide of the Palestinian people, and urged him to work towards an immediate ceasefire and a sovereign Palestinian state. But only Tuskovich Prime Minister Ligo Vodka will attend the St. Patrick's Day White House ceremony on March the 17th, where he'll present Biden with a bowl of shamrocks. Yeah, we don't need to know all that. But the annual ceremony meeting between Tuskovich and Biden promised to be unusually tense this year, as a growing chorus of voters, both in Ireland and amongst the Irish American diaspora, voiced outrage over Biden's support for the war on Gaza. "I can recognise colonial opposition, so oppression, colonial state violence because of a childhood in Ireland," said Mulligan. "Now in Palestine, they're dehumanising people, they're criminalising resistance, criminalising the complete population. They're using starvation as tactics, as the British did in Ireland during the Great Hunger. It's the exact playbook happening in Palestine." Conor McCann, an Irish stick figure in Baltimore whose family immigrated through Ellis Island, New York generations ago, said he's been stunned by how rapidly a network of Irish Americans has connected around support for Palestine. "Some folks are in touch with organisers in Ireland. Others are chatting through social media. Many are talking with friends and siblings," explains McCann, who has almost 20 years of experience for organising, advocacy and protest. He calls the rapid or organic nature of network building jaw-dropping, adding that every time I have a conversation, it leads to three more with three other people. Ireland has long been one of Palestine's foremost Western supporters. The country was the first EU member to endorse a Palestinian state, and after the October the 7th, Irish lawmakers were amongst the first in the West to call for a ceasefire. The Irish public support is even more robust than their politicians. About 80% of Irish people believe Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, and many have called for the boycott of the White House meeting. In light of this fierce support, an Israeli minister recently told Palestinians to go to Ireland or the desert. Yeah, see, this right here tells you, like, this is just one of many examples of how the Israeli government feel about Palestinians. And so, as Biden continues to support Israel's military campaign, the Irish public has largely turned on him. In November, a mural of Biden and his ancestral hometown was splattered over with red paint along the words "Genocide Joe." Irish members of the European Parliament MEP Claire Daly addressed recent remarks directed to Butcher Biden in a fiercely speech, thundering, "The ancestors of the island that you claim to be from disown you. Keep our country out of your mouth." Now, Alison O'Connell, a lead organiser with the Irish American for Palestine, said her group had a chance to be effective because Biden talked so much about his Irish heritage last week. O'Connell delivered in a letter in person to the Irish embassy, asking them not to meet Biden as usual. The energy comes out up to St. Patrick's Day. People know this is our moment to make some kind of statement, O'Connell adds. This week, protests against the White House meetings are planned in at least 7 states and multiple cities, including New York, St. Louis, Washington, D.C., Minneapolis, and Albuquerque. Not very Irish of you, Joe, basically says. Not very Irish of you. Free Palestine. Yes, the vast majority of Irish are against this, as is a vast majority of people in the West, shall we say. On the 3rd of March, Mike Doyle, a teacher in Brooklyn who is a fourth-generation Irish, marched on the St. Patrick for All parade in Queens, New York, a long-running alternative to the official New York City parade, the oldest and largest St. Patrick's parade in the world. Some groups hosted sign of banners for a ceasefire in Gaza, and Doyle reveals as they walked through the historical Irish neighbourhood and Sunnyside neighbourhood, pretty much the whole street was cheering for us and shouting ceasefire. As the election approaches, Irish Americans who object to Biden's support of Israel said they plan to make their voices heard not only at protests but also at the polls. McCann voted for Biden in 2020 but said he will vote for uncommitted in Maryland primary, a vote held in May to choose the state's Democratic presidential candidate. O'Connell notes that her father, once a Republican, voted for Biden in 2020 but this is now undecided. In an Irish American for Biden-Harris 2024 campaign kickoff meeting on Friday, Biden told attendees that he needed Irish Americans to win in November. The swing states of New Hampshire, Maine, and Pennsylvania have the most Americans of Irish decency in their country, number 1, number 5, and number 6 of most Irish, respectively. Some have blamed insufficient attention to the Irish American communities, at least in part for Clinton's 2016 loss to Trump. I just don't understand how he can defend the bombings of hospitals, of universities, 900,000 children internally displaced, says Mullen. He's lost my vote, certainly. He would have had it before, Milligan added, but this went beyond the line. And that's the thing. He's losing support here. For others, Biden's support still remains strong. Brian O'Donnell, Vice President of the Irish American Democrats Political Action Committee, PAC, and the Irish for Biden campaign likewise stressed the importance of the Irish vote, saying there's no question that he's one of the few remaining swing votes in the US. Biden won the presidency in 2020 in large part because of the Irish vote in Pennsylvania and Michigan, both of which voted for Trump in 2016. O'Donnell says that adding that those states certainly will be targeted in this upcoming election. But O'Donnell says Irish American Democrats remain very supportive of the way President Biden has handled his support for Israel. When asked about the Irish Americans who protected an objective, O'Donnell backtracked somewhat. Of course, there's a shift in the last few years, weeks and days. That's becoming very apparent. O'Donnell said that in order to hear from the Irish American voters this time of year, we're meeting regularly with members of the community, both virtually and in person. And clarified that the PAC has not done polling on this issue. He added that while there's certainly a number of people who brought up concerns over Gaza, from what I'm hearing from the broader community, they think the President current is exactly right. Speaking just hours after the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called for an end to Netanyahu's rule, O'Connell agreed with the senator, calling Netanyahu a major impediment to peace. I think we all think it's time for him to go. McCann, a registered Democrat who said he works for the Irish Americans in more than 30 states, called Dewar for willfully out of touch of the actual sentiment of our communities nationwide. He estimates more than 90% of Irish Americans he speaks with support for a free Palestine. Asked about the current US policy in Gaza, Matt Carthy, Foreign Affairs spokesperson for the Irish-led opposition party Sinn Féin, wrote in an email, quite simply, the US is on the wrong side of history. They must stop funding and arming Israel while it remains a gross violation of international law. Sinn Féin's President Mary Lou McDonald is in the US this week. She told an audience at Georgetown University that Biden was getting things badly wrong. McDonald is meeting with US leaders including Schumer and Michigan Representative Rashida Tlaib. Carthy also notes that we have a real sense that public opinion there has shifted, notably with the Irish American community, who rightly have seen parallels between the fate of their ancestors and what Palestinian people are currently enduring. Doyle feels that the Democratic Party establishment is misgauging certainly the younger people who don't support Israeli occupation. That's not what their contemporary island looks like, it said. It's anti-colonial. It's an increasing sectarian. It advocates for human rights and liberalisation. I think there's a lot of Irish Americans who will gladly identify with that. In fact, the widespread interest this month as folks, young and older, started to assemble as Irish Americans for a free Palestine demonstrates just that. It really emboldens the spirit of Palestine will set us all free. It gives us a chance to lean in our Irish heritage and our values as a people of co-science. Interesting article, to say the least, on how Palestinian Irish Americans feel about this, and I've seen many speeches from Ireland side when it comes to how they feel about this, and they do strongly feel that this is relationships are not very good between Ireland and Israel, understandably, because they feel that the way Israel are treating Palestine is despicable, and I'm in agreement with the vast majority that it's been reported, the vast majority of social media footage, the vast majority of what we are seeing speaks volumes about what's actually happening out there and how bad things are. Those are the actions. When I see people saying, who are defending Israel and saying that what they're doing is just and justified, and when I see clips on there, when I see the video footages on there, are we gonna believe that what Israel are doing is bad? Obviously, we're going to be talking more about this in a bit later, but I will say, though, obviously, in terms of Biden's position, let's just talk a bit on Biden's position here. I mean, it will obviously hurt him, his position, and for him to say that he, the part of the history, the Irish history that's within him, it's definitely been put into question on a situation as this. But there's a lot of politics at stake as well, really. But like I've said, if America can stop this, if they really put their foot down on this, if I'm honest. But let's hope that Biden does something soon on his end, because he can do. Guys, while you're here, if you haven't already, please hit the like button and share this across social media so others are notified of this video, and hit that bell notification icon to be notified when I upload another video. If your notifications are not working, remember to turn off your notifications to turn them back on. It's an issue that YouTube has. It's not a YouTuber issue. It's not just with me. It can happen with any other YouTubers. So if videos and live streams are happening and you're not seeing them and you're not being notified of them, it's because of the notifications. So just turn it back off, turn it back on, and that normally is what fixes it for you guys. So this is a little interesting one here. I don't know too much about this one, but this one is from the BBC. So the Czech Republic are struggling to contain a surge of whooping cough. Now, I wouldn't say this is like COVID or anything of the sort, but I think it's an interesting one to say the least. So we got obviously they're suffering from a little bit of sickness bug here of some sorts. So let's read what this is about, guys. So whooping cough is on the rise across Europe, and the Czech Republic is no exception. However, a week marked by confusion surrounding official guidance and the controversial public appearance by Prague's mayor has left some wondering if anything was learned from COVID-19. In the first weeks of January, said the Czech authorities, there were 28 registered cases of whooping cough. That figure now stands at 3,084. So from January to now, we're in mid to late March. They've gone from 28 registered cases now to 3,000. A number not seen since 1963. Wow. Sufferers including an 80-year-old mayor of Prague, Bořislav Sosovička. By the way, I apologise if I mispronounce or botch any of the names here. I'm just going to put that out there now. Who is an MP as well as an epidemic genealogist, coughing and spluttering his way through a parliamentary health committee meeting. Wow, that's so maybe they shouldn't be there. A clearly irritated Dr. Shoska questioned why he had to be there in the first place. Yeah, he said he was recovering from a whooping cough, but it was on a day 6 of an antibiotic course. I am no longer infectious, or at least that's what they taught me at school. Most colleagues from the room chattered. One at least, he said he could at least have worn a face mask. Yeah, he wasn't even wearing a face mask. I mean, okay. For the Prague breach of the Green Party was no laughing matter. Public health regulations dictate that those with whoopee cough must stay at home until the end of their antibiotic treatment. The party has filed criminal charges against the mayor for spreading the contagious disease. As cases continue to rise, the Prague Public Health Authority took matter into its own hands. It sent out letters to the capital schools, saying in the event of a confirmed case of whoopee cough in a class, any unvaccinated children must be sent home. This was immediately shot down by the head of the National Public Health Authority, who admonished her Prague colleagues at a press conference that schools had no authority to send home unvaccinated children as a precaution, she said. Instead, all cases should be judged individually based on how long the infected child has spent in the classroom and so on. Epidemiologists, including one who led the government's measures against COVID, shook their heads in disbelief. Recently amended health ministry guidelines call for exactly the approach recommended by the Prague authorities, they said. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, obviously here, if it doesn't kill them, okay, if it causes sickness, okay, but I would say if we're talking about something that could potentially be lethal, then yes, it would make sense to send them home. But if they're not lethal, I don't think it's the end of the world to send children home as a precaution. And maybe yeah, it's a bit dangerous, but I would say as long as it doesn't kill them, I think that's kill them. That's the main thing. I mean, obviously, I don't want them having suffering for the rest of their lives from this sickness. But that's just how I'm reading it as of right now. But confusion over the official guidance obscures a curious conundrum: what unvaccinated children? Vaccination for whoopee cough, known in Czechs as a black cough, is mandatory in the country. So they have to have vaccination. So they have to have vaccination anyway. It's mandatory in the country. So schools that have no authority to send home unvaccinated children. So why would any children be unvaccinated then if it's mandatory? It is meant to be administered alongside inoculation of diphtheria, tetanus, polio, and others from the very first weeks of life. Yet, according to official figures, immunization as a whooping cough is estimated at 97% of the infected population, suggesting there are thousands of unvaccinated babies in the Czech Republic. So, are we having a situation like we had in Serbia and other countries where they are hesitant to take vaccines because of what online media is saying, basically, or communities are saying about how they could that vaccines and whatnot? Are we going down that conspiracy theory hole again? Is that the reason why some people haven't had it? I hope not. The health minister Vasko Veskic told Czech television that the current rise in cases is down to a combination of two things: a resurgence in respiratory diseases as social abandons strict COVID measures, and incomplete immunization in children. The whoopee cough vaccine is applied in 5 stages. The first 3 in the first 12 months of life. Almost all children receive the initial dose. However, only 90% end up receiving the final 2, administered around the ages of 6 and 10. Okay, so the majority get the first one, but chasing it, the follow-ups are not enough. This, said Mr. Valek, will explain why the greater rise is among Czech teenagers. Parents have been urged to check their children's vaccination history. Adults are encouraged to go for a booster shot. In years, so there isn't really so maybe it's not so much as people don't want it. It's more of a case of just going out of their way to get it, I think. In years gone by, dozens, if not hundreds, of babies and young children die in what was then Czechoslovakia from a whoopee cough each year, until the introduction of mandatory vaccination in 1958. Experts says the modern population is still well protected by the mass state-administered compulsory vaccination. The resurgence in cases, however, still carries dangers. Those infected teenagers may suffer nothing more than serious than a persistent cough, but they can still be passed on in what could be a fatal disease to their younger siblings, whose their immunity is still forming, or indeed their grandparents whose immunity may have faded. So it could be depending on. It could depend on their immunity as well. It's I don't know. It's a tough one really to comment on, because the thing is that how I'm trying not to be. I'm trying not to be. I'm trying to be careful, trying to formulate the right words here, because I feel like that. Obviously, when they're young, obviously, have there been cases? Like, I haven't read in this so far. Have there been cases of children actually dying from this? Have there been actual cases of them dying from this? And if there is, then maybe there should be more cause for concern. But if not, are we exaggerating a little bit about it? Now, obviously, when they are much older, it is natural, and I think, yeah, you guys will agree with me, as you get older, it's natural for your immune system to become weaker. So to say that it is because of, so it's entirely possible that this coughing and disease could potentially be lethal for some senior people. But then as they get older, their immune systems become vulnerable to all sorts of things, and that is a natural thing. That is a natural thing. So I'm conscious of saying, oh, they need to do more to protect people. I'm conscious of saying that because it's kind of a natural phenomenon that, you know, we don't have the strongest immune system when we're younger, but as we grow older, we develop those immune systems, and then once we get to a certain age in life, those immune systems don't become as strong as they used to. It's a natural part of life. So I'm conscious of basically saying, of saying something along those lines. I'm conscious of what I say on that. So what is whooping cough, and what are the initial symptoms? So whooping cough, also known as puscus, is a contagious infection in the lung or breathing tube. The first signs of whooping cough are similar to a cold, with a running nose and a sore throat, but after a week the infection can develop into a coughing bouts that last a few minutes, that are typically worse at night. So they don't, like I said, I'm reading into this and I don't see anything about, so they said it can be lethal. And I do believe that if you are of a certain age, once you reach a certain age, it can be lethal to you, which is totally understandable. It's totally understandable to feel that way. But when you reach a certain age, but has there been cases of where children have died from it? And I'm sure some people in the Premier Chat may highlight this for me. But I do think it's obviously, you know, any disease, you obviously want to make sure you protect yourself, protect your children, protect others around you. And I think a bit of, you know, while I'm happy that they have a mandatory vaccine program and making sure that their children gain the best immunization from whatever diseases at a young age, I would just say obviously they need to encourage and make sure that people take their second and third vaccines in order to make sure that they're protected. And I think that would just generally fix it. But if they're not, they just need to make sure and follow up on it to help protect people from it. This, as long as there's not a mass falling and mass deaths of people, and I think that's the main thing. And hopefully that is the case. Hopefully there is the case that not too many that people aren't actually dying from it, and it's just a case of just not enough people are taking the second and third doses what they were supposed to be taking, and that's probably the situation that they're in. But it's an interesting story to say the least, and hopefully they will get a grip on it sooner rather than later. So guys, we are halfway through the World's News Round here. We're going to take a little break things up a little bit, guys. And I've got an interesting, funny video for you guys here. This one is from, oh, no, wait, I'm in the wrong screen. This one is from Foil and Arms, guys. It's called the Wordplay Card Dealership. Hope you guys enjoy this.
Here's our catalogue. Why don't you take a look?
I had a Honda before. Never again.
You didn't like the Honda?
Where to start? I couldn't find the ignition.
Yeah, common problem.
Yeah.
That one there had 2 previous owners, a town crier and a referee.
Oh.
Yeah, so it comes with all the bells and whistles.
Cool.
It also has a tail fin on the back. I can give you some more information.
No spoilers.
All I'll say is when you want to stop the car, you got to put your feet down and drag them against the ground.
That's ridiculous.
Them's the brakes.
My budget is 15k max.
This limousine is 16k.
That's a stretch.
This one's got actually quite a poor security system for a car this new.
Alarmed?
No, but I was a little surprised.
I'll bet.
It has keyless entry.
Keyless entry?
The locks are broken.
No thanks.
This one's got a decent sized trunk, but it's due back in the zoo by Thursday.
Oh, that's a pity. Is this a saloon?
No, it's a car dealership.
I bought a car from a saloon once and it broke down next week.
Cowboys.
My eyes keep being drawn to the Swedish model.
Ah, yes, that's Bjorn. Hey.
What about this one here?
I can't sell you that car. It can only turn right.
It can only turn right?
Yeah, it can only turn right.
Only right?
Yes, I feel like we're going in circles here.
Are these still available?
Oh, I wouldn't buy any of them. They're all lemons. This is the car that you want.
Could I have a closer look?
Sure. Would you like me to open the bonnet?
Yes, please. Yeah, thanks.
Here you go.
Is that a spare tyre under there?
Yes, I put a little weight on over Christmas.
No, the car.
No, it doesn't come with one. So do make sure that you inflate those tyres to 400 psi every single time.
That's a lot of pressure.
Well, if you have a problem, there's a manual.
Si, senor.
He's very good with cars. Hi, we're
Nice little funny one there from Foil and Arms. Guys, make sure you check out their YouTube channel at Foil and Arms on YouTube, guys. They have lots of great videos. Please go check it out on their channel, subscribe, hit a like and all that stuff, guys. They really do some really good fun stuff. And they're doing a few do a few events here and there as well, actual live events as well, which is pretty cool. So, excuse me. So be sure to check them out, guys, while you're here. And before I go to the next article, guys, if you guys can in any way, shape or form, it will really make a big difference. It really does help support me, financially supporting me, and the work that I do here really does come a long way and really does help make a difference. So obviously I do get some revenue from ads from my videos, but you guys can help me one step further by becoming a YouTube member for just as little as 99p. Being a YouTube member really does go a long way, and even that 99p does make a massive difference, guys. Being a YouTube member for 99p gives you access to custom emojis, as well as you getting priority messages. So whenever you comment on any of my videos, I'll always give a response to it, no matter what the comment is. And if you decide to upgrade and become a YouTube Snowflake Corporal, which is a $2.99 membership, you'll get early access to my content as well. So that means you'll get access to content much earlier before others as well. So that's an additional bonus that you get for being one of those. So if you happen to be one of those two members, I want to say thank you for being a YouTube member, and for those who have rejoined and those who currently are, is greatly appreciated. But you also, if you didn't want to give if you did want to financially support me and maybe you didn't want to do it through YouTube as a member, there's other ways you can do it as well. You could always buy me a coffee. I get buy me a coffee, or through Patreon as well. Both ways I get a bit more of the cut than with YouTube, for example. So if you wanted to, the links for them are in the description. So if you wanted to buy me a coffee that way, or in those regards instead of through YouTube, you're more than welcome to do so as well. So the next one, guys, we're sticking still with Europe. This is a very interesting story here, and I found this one on Euronews. Now, obviously, at the time of this article is a few days old, so there's entirely possible that it may have already happened, but it's very concerning, especially when we're talking about media reform here in our own country, here in the United Kingdom. So the headline is: Bratislava sees thousands of protests overhaul of the national broadcaster. So this is in Slovakia, guys. So let me read a bit into it so you guys can understand what the story is about. So Bratislava sees thousands protest overhaul of the national broadcaster. So thousands are gathered in central Bratislava over the weekend to protest the overhaul of the nation's public broadcaster, the RTVS. Protesters fear that the reform will put the channel under government control. The reform plan is to rename it RTVS into STAR, Slovak Television and Radio, and to dismiss most of its top management, including the head of the channel. And the new boss is to be appointed by a council, elected partially by the Minister of Culture and partiality by Parliament, where the ruling coalition has the majority. And you can, so just based off that itself, so allegedly they're looking to the government of Slovakia. They are looking to change the state broadcaster, obviously make reforms, and obviously over time there are changes that need to be made to state and national broadcasters in what way. But the way they're changing it and the dismissing of those who are already there, and some of the electoral partiality will be by the Ministry of Culture, does absolutely raise questions. And obviously that partiality, the controlling of media, is the first step towards taking away people's democratic rights and the so-called democracy, because once a government has control of a state media in the way that could potentially be going here, then this government could have influence over the future of the people of Slovakia, which is a great threat to them, which is why they see what's happening here. And you can see just from that crowd, like it's obviously a they are very much very much in love with this public broadcaster and care deeply about it enough to know the influence that it could potentially, to know that these reforms could potentially have massive ramifications for its people. Now, whether you disagree with it or not, the government could say, as we read into it, is probably saying that, but it's actually it's a good thing that we're just making necessary changes as times are changes and whatnot. And yeah, you could make those points, but the fact that elected partially by the Ministry of Culture and partially by Parliament, where the ruling coalition has the majority, like you can't say to me that there's not something a little bit fishy there. Yeah, there is something a little bit fishy in that. So that does put that partiality that it is into question about it. So, but obviously it has stressed elective partiality, but it's still people are very, very concerned. And these steps, there's a saying that I've learnt actually as well, which is control the media, control the mind. It's a little saying that I've started to grasp on as well. So 600 workers of the RTSV signed a declaration against the reform. According to protesters, this is a direct violation of EU law, namely the European Media Freedom Act of 2022, which demands the transparency and the impartial appointment of public broadcaster management and clearly prohibits to fire already appointed functionaries before the end of term. Interesting. So this is a direct violation of EU law. So how are the EU responding to this? So surely they would have commented on this already. Apologies if I mispronounce any of the names, by the way. Michal Shuska, the leader of the Progressive Slovakia, one of the parties who initiated the protests, claimed that this is exactly the way all autocrats follow. If Slovakia goes down this route, we will end up like Hungary or even Belarus. This is what I'm fearing if this goes through, or if it has already gone through. This is what I'm fearing for them. But that's I don't really have more than that, but on this story, guys. But it's a grave deal of concern, to say the least. That without a shadow of a doubt. If I find more on it, I will try and get a short video out for this for you guys at least. If anyone has any other additional information on it, can you please provide it on our Discord? The link is in the description. Feel free to please join the Discord community and provide some information there. It would be greatly appreciated, because I generally would like to know what the current situation is at the moment, because this is all that I have so far on it, and I think it's a great deal of concern, especially when people's one of the state medias, one that people really do look into, is at stake here. I think that really does matter. So guys, the next one I have here is from CNN. We're going back to the Middle East here, and more on Gaza here. I was very held back on what to say about Gaza and Netanyahu because of this story here I wanted to cover here. So the headline is Netanyahu saying he's trying everything to get more aid into Gaza, even though the aid group says that is just not true. So aid groups are saying you're not doing enough, and Netanyahu saying he's doing plenty. And I'm like, really? That's not how it looks to me. That's not how it looks to me, guys. So the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told CNN in an interview on Sunday that his country's priority is to let as much humanitarian aid to Gaza as necessary. As is necessary. So not as much as possible, as necessary, he's saying. A claim that has been disputed by aid agencies and even contradicts his own statements. So he's even contradicting his own statements. In an interview with CNN Diabash, Netanyahu sought to shift the blame for aid not getting into Gaza from his government and onto Hamas, accusing the group of looting relief supplies. Well, the thing is that, okay, so you're claiming this, right? Do you have evidence to support this? Just like, when you were claiming against the UNRWA, had Bebbers working, allegedly been part of the October 7th attack. Do you have evidence for that? Because again, I'm still waiting for the evidence on that. He's saying he's making a lot of claims, but not backing it up with evidence. The Prime Minister's remarks come amid rising criticism of Israel's military campaign in the Gaza Strip, launched in the wake of Hamas' October 7th attack that left around 1,200 people killed and another 250 taken hostages. Israel says its operation is meant only target Hamas fighters and not Palestinian civilians. But we've seen many people being treated incredibly inhumane by the IDF, and we even covered a story last week on the channel about how even prisoners are being treated worse than animals, like absolute inhumane torturing stuff. So I'm really having a hard time believing anything this man says. Israel's campaign has killed more than 31,000 people. How do you end? So here's the thing, right? When they're trying to say to protect life and whatnot, how does it justify? How do 31,000 civilians lose their lives in a campaign like this? Where's the justification for 31,000 lives here? There's none. There's not and more than 10,000 children have died, and we're not even talking about and we're also talking about the fact that they're not letting anywhere near enough aid getting in. We know that aid drops that are going in obviously are not always dropping into Gaza as well, because they're doing that because they can't get it through the main borders, especially along the border with Egypt, because Israel are being very cautious of that. They're not at the time of this recording. They're not allowing aid coming in from shipping from the sea as well. I mean, they're being very restrictive and very hesitant to allow any aid in. And they keep claiming it's helping Hamas, and I'm just like people just want the bloodshed to stop, and you have no intention of listening to the world whatsoever. According to the territory's health ministry, causing wide-scale destruction, mass displacement, and looming famine. The United Nations, European Union, and Israel's closest allies, the United States, have all criticised its policies, calling Netanyahu to allow more aid to besieged enclave. In his interview with CNN, Netanyahu made several claims about his country's aid policy in Gaza. CNN breaks down those claims and what the aid group has said about them. So Netanyahu says Israel's policy is to allow as much aid as needed. Our policy is not to have famine, but to be the entry of humanitarian support as needed and as much as needed, Netanyahu told CNN. The Israeli leader claimed contradicts statements he made previously, in which he boasted about permitting minimal humanitarian aid to enter Gaza. We provide minimal humanitarian aid, Netanyahu said at a press conference in January. If we want to achieve our goals, we give the minimal aid. So there's the already contradiction that he's made before. So he's obviously saying that they're providing. So he's already said something different. Because he's speaking to Western media and he's in America, he's obviously going to try and play it out like he's a good person. We're helping. This is no laughing matter. Netanyahu's war policies have also hindered aid. Less than 2 days after Israel began its military operation in Gaza, it placed the strip under what Defense Minister Yoav Gallant called a complete siege, halting supplies of electricity, food and water to fuel the enclave. When the aid finally began entering Gaza, it was only a trickle through a process that aid workers and the UN said is long, complicated and atrocious. Aid workers and government officials say a pattern has emerged of Israel's obstruction, where Israel's corridor of government activities in the territories, better see as Kodak, the agency that controls access to Gaza, has imposed arbitrary and contradictory criteria on relief entering the territory. It's deliberately opaque, deliberately ambiguous, one relief worker said in the aid delivery process. I've never seen a supply chain that sought to be so simple, be so complicated. Save the Children US President and Chief Executive Jangi Sobgol told CNN last month. The levels of barriers being put in place to hamper humanitarian assistance, we've never seen anything like it. Trucks carrying aid must pass through 3 layers of inspection before they can enter the enclave. Martin Griffiths, the UN Under Secretary General, has said long lines fuller inspections have led to bottlenecks at the Rafah crossing. The UN's World Food Programme, the WFP, said, with the list of rejected claims or dual-use equipment only growing. Despite calls on Israel to open more crossings into Gaza, aid is restricted to only 2 land crossings, the Rafah crossing with Egypt and the Kalin Shalom crossing with Israel. Israel, however, has a total of 6 crossings into Gaza, some of which haven't been operational for over a decade. Egypt's Foreign Minister Shami Shoskis last week called for Israel to open them. For months, the lines of trucks bound for Gaza have been backed up along the highway and leading from the Egyptian town of Eshka, a major logistical hub for aid, and to the Rafah crossing. In a satellite image from late last month, a line of trucks could be seen stretching out for 4 miles across from the crossing. See, this is the problem here. They do not want, I'm just going to call it for what it is. Israel do not want aid going in there. They want these people to die. They literally want these people to die. They want them to die, because if they generally had any kind of care and well-being, they would allow this aid in. This is not just about destroying Hamas. No, this is not. This is about killing an entire country here. And that is what I'm alleging here. Because if they had any morals, which they don't, they would have allowed far more aid than what they're allowing in. Far more. And like I said when we covered that horrific story last week, guys, about how they treat Palestinians in their Israeli prisons, yeah. They literally do not see Palestinians as equals. They do not see them as humans. They see them as less than second-class citizens. They see them as beneath them, inhumane bugs and parasites is how they see them. They don't see them in any way, shape or form as humans. They don't. Israel do not see them in any way, shape or form like that. Because if they did, there would be a lot more relief coming in. So even when the relief does enter, Israeli bombardment damages the road from airstrikes, communication blackouts, and mass displacement implement distribution from within the enclave. So even if they get through, they go out of their way to make it difficult. And there's even been times where some of the aid trucks have been hit by Israeli bombardment as well, even though the Israeli authorities are aware that they are aid trucks as well, allegedly. Last month, Israeli forces fired on a UN convoy carrying food supply in central Gaza before ultimately blocking the roads from progressing in the northern part of the territory, according to documents shared by the UN and CNN's own analysis. Israel has also been working to dismantle the main aid agency that handles aid distribution in Gaza for decades. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, the UNRWA, accused some of its staff of being involved in the Hamas October 7th attack. I've stated this before and I've stated it again. They have no evidence to support their claims about this. None at all. This is about killing, and this is about killing Palestinians. They want this. They want all this land. They want the Gaza Strip gone. They want to take it for themselves, Israel. That's what they want. They want this land. They want all these people either shoved out the way or killed. One of the two. That's what they want. They do not in any way, shape or form will accept any kind of Palestinian statehood. They don't want that. They don't. Netanyahu said that Israel has created alternative routes to deliver aid, including those airdrop shipment by sea and land routes. Only 2 land crossings have been used to deliver aid to Gaza, the Rafah crossing with Egypt and the Kalin Shalom crossing with Israel, but volumes are insufficient compared to the scale of suffering. Israel has, however, tested a pilot program to deliver desperately needed aid to northern Gaza through another border gate, but only 6 trucks have crossed it as of last Wednesday. And while Israel is indeed allowing airdrops and maritime relief, aid group said it's nowhere near enough to alleviate the looming famine and warned it could undermine a land-based delivery. Only 1 shipment so far has delivered aid to Gaza, carrying the equivalent of 1 meal each of a quarter of the enclave to more than 2 million people. With 200 tons of aid on board, the ship delivered the equivalent of about 10 trucks worth of relief. More shipments are expected, but the process is slow and complicated, especially as there is no functioning ports left in Gaza to effectively receive the aid. In a joint statement released by Amnesty International, 25 non-government organisations last week called on governments to prioritise land-based delivery aids, saying states cannot hide behind the airdrops and efforts to open a maritime corridor to create an illusion that they are doing enough to support the needs of Gaza. The NGOs also warned against the potential devastating consequences of creating dangerous precedents that risk the degradation of land-based humanitarian access as well as prolonging hostilities. Netanyahu is saying Israel is allowing more trucks in. The problem is not enough number of trucks going in, although we're increasing it on a daily basis, Netanyahu said. Aid groups said that the UN has said the main problem is hampering humanitarian aid in Gaza is the small number of trucks entering the enclave due to Israel restrictions. An average of 95 aid trucks per day entering Gaza between October 10th and February the 1st, according to Palestinian Red Crescent, is down from 500 trucks a day before the war through the Rafah crossing alone. Netanyahu says Israel is increasing the number of trucks each day, while March saw an uptick in the number of trucks crossing. The UN has suggested that the volume of aid has been fluctuating. The first 15 days of March saw an average of 165 aid trucks per day cross into Gaza, the UNRWA reports on Sunday. The figure is higher than the average 95 trucks per day, but it remains well below the 500 needed per day. UNRWA Commander General Felipe Lazzarini said last month that the volume of aid into Gaza has been halved between January and February. Netanyahu has claimed Hamas is looting trucks. Netanyahu told CNN on Sunday that Hamas is the main obstacle to aid delivery and is looting incoming aid. Israel hasn't provided any evidence to back that claim. See, there we go again. No evidence to provide this claim. Just like when they said about the UNRWA are working for Hamas. No evidence. They're just making these claims up. They're just throwing these things out there to deter people from what's actually happening. Where's their evidence? Don't make a claim without backing it up. You've got no evidence for this. The UN and other aid groups have reportedly some of their aid trucks have been looted, but haven't ascribed any blame for it. Looting has been attributed to extreme levels of hunger and breakdown of social order. Now, let me be clear about this. Yes, of course there has been looting, but are we going to say this is Hamas? No, I'm not going to say this is Hamas. Is it entirely possible that maybe one or two Hamas groups may have taken it? It's entirely possible. But are we going to say that they are the sole reason? No, I'm not going to say that, because there is so much famine in Gaza that people are that desperate that they will do absolutely anything to survive. Literally survive. People are literally dying of hunger, are dying of starvation there. So of course they're going, if they have an opportunity to raid a truck that could potentially save their family and their friends who are suffering right now. Yeah, if they're going to take that chance, they're going to take that damn chance, because you would do the exact same thing if you were in that person's situation where you have an opportunity to steal a truck for some food, yeah, in order to feed your family. You're going to do it, aren't you? Like that's how desperate people are. They will do absolutely anything at this point. When the World Food Programme, the WFP, halted aid delivery into northern Gaza, it cited safety concerns, saying there's complete chaos and violence due to the collapse of civil order. And when it tried to deliver 14 truck food convoy this month, it was turned back by the Israeli Defense Force after a 3-hour wait in the Wadi Gaza checkpoint, the WFP had said. After being turned away, the trucks were rerouted and later stopped by a larger crowd of desperate people who looted the food, taking around 200 tons from the trucks, the agency said. Yeah, well, what are they supposed to do? What are they supposed to do, guys? I mean, it's just like they literally, the moment they go in there, they get swamped. They get absolutely swamped, and because they don't have anything, they literally have nothing. It's just it's so despondent. And you know, I haven't watched the video, but I don't even want to watch the video because Netanyahu will try and play down everything. You know. I don't, you know, he's just really, him and this government. Like, I generally believe that if, I know a lot of people have said that that his government and that are no different than him, and I get that point, I really, really do. But I generally believe that if you remove him from the situation, if Netanyahu is removed from the situation, yeah, people within within the Israeli government know that they will actually do things that would be more in favour of their reputation. They don't be surprised if they are not concerned about their reputation a little bit here, because every day that passes, Israel's reputation gets damaged, and they're hurt, and it's hurting many innocent Jews up across the world who have absolutely nothing to do with what's happening here, and are being abused and terrorized because of how this government is handling the situation. And it can be avoided if we have that goddamn ceasefire and allow goddamn aid to come into the country that people bloody need. They need this aid. And it should not. It should. I don't know why we are not having this sooner. It's just not acceptable. Netanyahu talking a lot of nonsense, I'm afraid. He does not care about these people. They don't care about these people. They really, really don't. But I tell you who does. We do. So guys, moving on from Israel, guys, I've got a couple more bits left for you guys here. A short one here from African news, guys. I'm actually going to avoid sharing the clip. Maybe I should avoid sharing the image. But the headline from it is Congo reinstates the death penalty after more than 20 years. It's pretty. Democratic Republic of Congo have lifted a more than a 2-decade-old memorial on the death penalty as authorities struggled to curb violence and militant attacks in the country, according to a Justice Ministry statement released on Friday. So this was obviously as late as Friday, this story, guys. Obviously, Congo is one of the most out of control nations, shall we say, has one of the some of the biggest issues in the world in terms of corruption and having any kind of government and stability is almost near to next impossible for them, and they've always had this issue. And so, as a way to try and mitigate and try to punish those who are against the government, they're looking to bring back the death penalty, and they're bringing back the death penalty. And I'm just thinking, I don't think the death penalty is going to fix the problem that's taking place within Congo. And like I've said about many countries, not just in Africa but other countries around the world that are consistently suffering, and whether it's from war, famine, or whatever the reasons are, that if you're not prepared to fix the houses, fix the homes that people come from, don't complain when they come knocking on your door. It's a saying that I like to think of, because people, people don't want to leave not many people want to actually leave their home countries. People are proud. There are many people who are proud of who they are and where they come from, but many people are forced to go and leave their homes because of situations like these. And like Haiti, like Sudan, like Congo, if international communities on an international scale, if we worked hard enough to help these nations and help bring stability to these countries, to the very best of our abilities and what we can do, we would not have such huge migrations coming into Europe from Africa and from America and whatnot around the world. We could avoid this if we actually went out of our way to help these nations, but instead we just turned a blind eye to them. And when there's absolute chaos, even more chaos comes along. And I don't agree with a death penalty. I think the death penalty is a get-out-of-jail-free card. I've always believed that the death penalty is a get-out-of-jail-free card for criminals. And it's a cop-out and for me, it's also seen to me as a cop-out for the state having to pay, or whoever's looking after those prisoners, a cop-out for having to look after the prisoner for the rest of their life in solitary confinement or whatever it is, because of the actions that they cause. That's kind of how I see it. I see them getting the death penalty as a get out of jail free card. I don't see it as justice in any way, shape or form, no matter how horrible the crime is. I think the most heinous and the most horrific thing you can do to somebody is literally lock them in solitary confinement, throw away the key, leave them with nothing but a bucket, and that's it. Not even seeing the light of day. That is why they literally ebb away in life. That is the ultimate, for me, one of the most horrifying tortures that you can do to a criminal. Yeah, doing the death penalty for me doesn't work for me. I just think I personally just see it as a get out of jail free card. Some of you may disagree. Some of you may think that it would. So in some countries or in some parts, some people might think that it actually does benefit. But you're thinking more about the financial terms and the state terms. I'm talking about in terms of the fact that the cost it takes to look after prisoners and whatnot. And I get that point, but I'm talking from a moral point of view. That's how I see it. I interpret it as a get out jail free card. So the statement dated earlier this week said the ban from 2003 allow offenders accused of treason and espionage to get away without proper punishment. Eastern Congo has been ridiculed by conflict for decades, linked to more than 120 armed gang groups fighting for land and power and in some cases protecting their communities. The government says that the violence in the east has plagued the country with the recurrent conflict and resulted in a surge of attacks that has spread terror among the communities. In recent years, the M23 rebel group, the most dominant in the region with alleged links to neighbouring Rwanda, has continued to attack villages, forcing many to flee to Goma, the region's largest city. The M23 has laid siege to several communities, with about half of the North Kivu province under its control. The violence in the province has worsened in recent weeks as security forces battle the rebels. Residents said the group's fighters mostly launch attacks with bombs out of the hills overlooking remote towns. In its statement, the Justice Ministry said capital punishment will be reversed for offenders involved in criminal conspiracies, armed gangs, insurrections, and those who commit treasons and war crimes. It will also be applied to the military, including those who rebel and desert and join enemy ranks. Right groups have condemned the decision, calling it a step back for the country. This initiative is against the Constitution, said Jean-Claude Kunsky, president of the African Association for Human Rights. We don't think that capital punishment and the execution of this sentence are appropriate measures to restore order. And it's not going to restore order. It's not going to make a difference to what's going on in the country in any way, shape, or form. I don't see it like that. Some people may think it will make a difference, but I don't see how the death penalty is going to change what's happening in the country. Lots and lots of problems, and obviously tensions are brewing between them and Rwanda, and they're only getting more bigger as well. It's really, really not good right now. It really is not. So, guys, while you're here, if you haven't already, please hit the like button. It'd be greatly appreciated, and share this across social media so others are notified of this video. So we'll move away from Africa, guys. We're going back into Europe. No stories from South America or Asia today, I'm afraid, but hopefully I'll have something on the Snowflake Corner on Friday for you guys. We're going to be looking at the current situation and things that are happening in Ukraine, guys. So we're going to the Kiev Independent here. So the first one we have from the Ukrainian government is allocating $128 million for procurement of attack drones. So obviously there's been recent events that's been taking place in Ukraine with regards to the war, where drones have been used by Ukraine to attack inside the territory of Russia, not so much just attacking Ukrainian controlled territory taken by Russia, but so much as actual attacks in them. And they've managed to break through a lot of Russia's defences and actually cause some damage in Russia. Excuse me, and that's not, obviously, it's not ideal, obviously, for Russia whatsoever. So because these drone attacks are actually taking effect, they're looking like they're procuring a lot more. It'll probably say it here in the article as well, but I know that I believe that the UK are advocating some drones as well to Ukraine, and my understanding is that obviously some Iran-made drones are being sent to Russia on Russia's side as well. I'm sure I covered a short story a while about that on as well. So obviously without less of the use of actual manpower here, and looking at more from the drones being used here. So the Ukrainian government is allocating an additional $128 million to purchase attack drones for the military. The economy minister Yurkovich announced on March the 18th. Drones have been used as a key tool in Ukraine's defense against Russia's war. President Vladimir Zelensky said that surpassing Russia in drone operation is one of its top priorities in 2024. Zelensky also signed a decree on February 6th, creating a separate branch of Ukraine's armed forces dedicated to drones. It will repeatedly focus on creating special drone-specific units, increasing production, ramping up training, and pushing innovations. The additional money for the procurement of drones will be drawn from the State Budget Reserve Fund, Shevchenko said, cited by the Economic Ministry on Facebook. In total, agreements with drone manufacturers worth about $769 million have already been concluded, and contracts with a total of $359 million are being prepared. And of course, that is not the limit, she added. According to Shevchenko, the Ukrainian government will continue both planned and operational financing for the procurement of drones. So Ukraine has the capacity to produce 150,000 drones each month. Wow! And maybe able to produce 2 million drones by the end of the year. Okay, that's pretty... Whoa, that's a lot. Strategic Industry Development Minister Hanna Hoska said on March 15th. So they're already producing 150,000 drones each month? Wow, that's some... More than 200 Ukrainian companies are involved in developing drones, of which almost 60 have received orders from the government, according to Helsefishka. Wow, that's a lot. I mean, I know obviously drones are being used to strategically, but I honestly didn't know they were developing that many every month. Like I'm kind of stunned by that. I wasn't expecting that. I honestly was not, guys. Honestly was not. An update on the general staff, guys, just on numbers. So these are not factual numbers, these are about the closest numbers that we have there to them. So Russia has lost 390 troops in Ukraine since the start of the war. So these are the current numbers, guys. Obviously, these aren't the most these are about as close as you can to the actual numbers of what we're perpetrating here. So they're claiming Russia has lost 432,000 troops in Ukraine since the beginning of the full-scale invasion on February 24th, 2022. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces have reported on March the 19th. This number includes 840 casualties from Russian forces suffered from just over the past day. So according to the report, Russia has lost 6,819 tanks, 13,049 armoured fighting vehicles, 14,191 vehicles and fuel tanks, 10,698 artillery systems, 1,017 multiple rocket launcher systems, 721 air defense systems, 347 airplanes, 325 helicopters, 8,318 drones, 26 ships and boats, and 1 submarine. It's always 1 submarine on the report. Yeah, on the report on this, but these numbers have ticked up since the last report from the Kiev Independent, and this is report that they have. Obviously, this won't be. The numbers are never 100% accurate, but these are the numbers that they have on their report side. I know some people will dispute these numbers, and that's fine. You can dispute these numbers. That's totally all right. They're not going to be 100% accurate, but this is the best that they obviously have. They have on that, to be fair. This was this morning, today as well. A Russian attack against Ukraine killed 4 people and injured 6 over the past day. So a Russian attack against Ukraine killed 4 people and wounded 6 more over the past day, damaging homes and civilian infrastructure, our regional officials have reported. Russia targeted a total of 9 Ukrainian oblasts: Dychmyr, Sumy, Mykolaiv, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia, Chernihiv, Kherson, Kharkiv and Donetsk. Casualties were reported in the latter 3 regions. Russian forces struck the city of Kherson and 8 more settlements in the region overnight, and on the previous day killing 3 people, Kherson Oblast Governor Oskar Puskin have reported. Russian attacks killed against Kherson Oblast hit residential areas, damaging 2 apartment buildings, according to Puskin. Now, another 1 person was killed and another was injured in attacks in Donetsk Oblast village of Oskalichun, some 15 kilometers northwest of the recently captured Avika. Vladimir Putin, the regional governor, said on Facebook. 4 more people were wounded in the town of Sesgon, where Russian troops hit it with an S-300 missile overnight, damaging over 20 houses, according to Donetsk Oblast Prosecutor Office. A Russian March the 18th strike on a village near Kotskitsk in Russian Oblast injured a 62-year-old man, said the governor. Olives has said as well. And around 20 settlements in Kharkiv Oblast were hit in the past day, with houses, an enterprise, and a cultural centre being damaged, according to Siskov there. So there's also that. This report as well has come down as well from the Kiev Independent. The EU is set to approve fresh sanctions against Russia over Navalny's death as well. So the EU agreed on Sunday to level new sanctions against Russia over the death of opposition leader Alexei Navalny, said Joseph Borrell, the EU's top diplomat. Bloomberg reported earlier in March that the EU was ready in a new package to target around 30 individuals in response to Navalny's death in February. Borrell told reporters ahead of a meeting of the EU's Foreign Affairs Council that the package was being adopted. Navalny's Russian President Vladimir Putin's main political opponent died in a penal colony in the town of Kolep, Yovo Nevic's autonomous district. He had been convicted of several fabricated criminal cases as part of the Kremlin's crackdown on dissent. Several countries, including the US, the UK, Canada, and Australia, have imposed new sanctions against Russia over Navalny's death. Navalny was detained in Russia in January 2021, was later sent to prison on two separate occasions. Hasn't said, they're not saying specifically what the well, we know that it hasn't said what the new fresh sanctions would be there on there. Let's just see if there's anything else interesting here. This is a state from Russian media. Most Armenian banks are to stop accepting Russian MIR cards. Interesting. So majority of banks in Armenia will stop accepting cards that use Russian MIR payment system at the end of the month. The Russian state-controlled media outlet RBC reported on March the 19th. So this is I've spoken about before about how Armenia are looking to slowly, in my opinion, are starting to slowly pull themselves a bit further away from Russia and being from Russia a little bit, small little steps, but not big steps, because obviously Russia still have a military base in Armenia, but they are making these small, tiny little steps, because obviously Russia abandoned them when it came to Agorno-Karabakh region that Azerbaijan has taken back and now has control of. And they've kind of given up on it at this point. And there has been looking like peace between the two nations. Finally, things have calmed down in terms of that. But they were looking at the West to help during that time. And the West kind of turned a blind eye to them. So this might be just small little steps that Armenia may be taking. But I would say take it with a pinch of salt as well. The MIR payment system was instituted following Russia's illegal annexation of Crimea in 2014. After international sanctions began to limit the usage of international cards, their usage exponentially increased after the beginning of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, and the subsequent withdrawal of the major card issue Visa and MasterCard from Russia. Armenian authorities said in 2023 that perhaps 100,000 Russians came to Armenia following the start of the mobilization in the fall 2023. Representative from the partial Russian state-owned bank VTB told RBC that most banks in Armenia, barring VTB, would stop accepting cards that worked through the MIR payment system by March the 30th. The impact of the decision is yet to be determined. There are still more than 50 VPP branches in Armenia and close to 200 ATMs that cardholders can access. According to RBC, MIR cardholders will still potentially be able to make online payments. The move was likely spurred by the announcement of new US sanctions against the Russian National Payment Card System, the NSPK, in February 2024, which coincides with the second anniversary of the full-scale war and the death of opposition leader Alexei Navalny. The US has sought to increase the reach of its measures against Russia, including moves to target banks around the world that do any business with the American financial system. So yeah, this is also to do with the sanctions as well. As the new measures announced in December 2023 levy potential consequences against institutions and even inadvertently work with the sanctions entities, some Chinese banks have ended their work with Russia as well. Interesting. US Deputy Treasury Secretary Anthony Wormel said in February that the measures have reduced the flow of Russian funds into third-party countries. The MRI payment system continues works in other countries that are allied with Russia or have maintained ties, the RSB have said. Armenia has been long close with Russia, but the relation between the two countries has swiftly deteriorated after Russian peacekeepers in Azerbaijan disputed the Nagorno-Karabakh region, claimed and previously populated by ethnic Armenians, did not intervene during Azerbaijan's September 2023 offensive. Armenia has sought to distance itself from Russia, repeatedly accusing Moscow of being an unreliable partner. Armenia's Foreign Minister Andrei Muskin revealed earlier in March that the country is considering applying for membership in the European Union. Don't know about that. Aiming to strengthen its ties with Western, Yevhen also asked Russian peacekeepers who had been stationed in Yevhen's international airport since the country's independence to leave. Okay, this is kind of a big thing here. This bit here, I'm just like, okay, yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, I'm not sure about this one, guys. Yeah, I don't think EU membership is something that they could apply for. They're not really geography-wise a European country. I'm just going to go out on the limb. And I think they're quite a ways off from applying to be a NATO member as well. I'm just going to put that out there as well. But I understand that they're trying to gauge some kind of favoritism as well. So guys, just before we wrap up the World News Round, I'm just going to show you guys the deep state map, which is obviously the map of what's happening with the current conflict in Russia, in the Ukrainian-Russian war. Sorry. So this is the latest update of the deep state map, guys. The link for it is in the description if you ever want to look at it yourself. The last update was on the 18th of March at 21:47 p.m. Time, guys. But if we just scroll, what I'll do is I'll just play it. Oh, wait a minute. If I just nope, wrong button. I keep forgetting. I'm still trying to get my head around it. There we go. So if we just go play it back a few days. When people are saying that it's all over for Ukraine, I'm not seeing, like, this is as far back as the 10th here. So this is 9 days ago here. So obviously there seems to be some movement in the Donetsk region here. So let's just pause it here and just see what's been happening here. So there's been bits of movement here. There looks like there's been some movement down. There was a slight movement here in the Veska region as well. Yeah, it looks like there's been, obviously since they've taken Avika, they've been pressing things forward here. But to say that it's all over, we haven't reached that. I don't think we've quite reached that point yet. But Ukraine do need to do something to stop these advancements. They need to have a line of some sorts here because they're still pushing through, making much ground here. Ever since they've taken the city of Avdiivka, I don't think has there been much movement here. Let's just see. Has there been? Trying to make some engagements here down the south, towards Okovich there, down in the south, but not too much happening here. Obviously, you can't really do much along here, the Kershkin and whatnot, because of the river here, but the Dynamo River. But obviously, they're firing artilleries and whatnot across the river there. The Dynamo River is playing a huge factor along here, but obviously from here along here, it's obviously becoming a challenge. Let's just have a look to see if there's been any major changes up the north of the country. Not really too much here. Looks like Ukraine are kind of embedded in, shall we say, I think around on this part here, to be fair. But obviously the main place where Russia are continuing to push is obviously from Avdiivka here, and they're obviously continuing to make strides here, gain ground here. But they're still, it's not like they are making ground, but it is not like the end of the world, shall we say. But obviously we'll continue to keep an eye on it as things go. But at the moment, obviously they're lacking weapons, they're lacking supplies, and then once I believe they will get in, they will help stop the rot. So the sooner they get that stuff in, the better, because that is playing against them, to be fair. But it's not to say that Russia isn't struggling themselves in their own way. But obviously we'll continue to keep an eye up on. I'll try to keep you guys updated on any things that happen within the war in Ukraine in my shorts videos and whenever I possibly can, guys. So guys, and with that point, we've reached the end of the World's News Round. What did you guys make of all the stories we covered today? Sorry we didn't have any stories from Asia or from South America today, or any updates so far on Haiti, but I'll see if I can have a look at, if not on shorts, but we'll try and find some stories on what's happening in those parts of the world on the Snowflake Corner, hopefully later in the week. But what did you guys make of the current stories we talked about? What's happening in Czech Republic? What's happening in Slovakia with the national broadcaster? The Democratic Republic of Congo, Putin winning the election, and of course Netanyahu in the war in Gaza, and of course the conflict in Ukraine that is continuing. Let me know your thoughts about all of these in the comments section down below. But just before you head out, if you haven't already, please hit the like button, be greatly appreciated. Share it across social media so others are notified of this video, and subscribe because it really does help support the channel, guys. But if you want to go one step further and financially support me in the work I do here, which I greatly appreciate, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. That gives you some additional benefits. And also, you can also join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. And you don't even have to be paid members for them. They're completely free to watch some of the exclusive content there as well. You can also find my shorts and that other videos as well on TikTok and on Instagram. Links for them are in the description. And soon I'll be going live on twitch.tv/Reganelite1. The link for that is in the description as well. So be sure to check out them and some of my other social media networks. That would be greatly appreciated. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.